Shut up and sit down.
Welcome back to this week's Tiki session. As always, Stuart Cullen from Rawee Board Company, and behind the bar with Ash. What's the crack this week?
I'm good, mate. I'm not too bad, thank you. Delighted to have my former head boy from Korean Inst in tonight, who showed me around on opening night. Stephen McConnell is a bit of a legend around the area, and obviously we're going to get to know you a little bit better. But tonight I've made your favourite cocktail. You're the only man I know that could pull off a bramble, Stephen. So I've made you a nice bramble and give you a bottle of Corona. So delighted to have you along.
Thank you very much.
Coming, mate.
Great to be here.
The only reason he can pull off a bramble is because look at the size of him. Everyone would be scared to say to him. So
I thought I'd order a pint, but
a pint of bramble.
So Stephen, we go back many years, and obviously as you were head boy at the Inst.
Yeah, I'm still hanging on to that.
I'm still hanging on to that.
1996.
I'm sure you still have your blazer and everything.
Absolutely.
Like, you know. So when was the last time you were in the boat bar?
It was actually last summer. I think we were up.
No, at the horse box.
The horse box. Well, that shows you how good a night it was actually. So,
brilliant.
So a few years ago, but yeah, definitely spent a lot of Saturday nights up here having a bit of crack.
Because the boat bar would have been a good hangout for the boys from Inst as well back in the day. I remember as a young lad from Dominican, anytime I came in here, I usually had to be taken out the other door before I got slapped or something like that, because I always had
It seemed to be a big row. There was a lot of rugby players, a lot of rowers as well would have been up here. I don't know, Stephen, you wouldn't have really drank back in the day, would you?
No, I had a couple of drinks now and again, just to fit in and stuff. But yeah, definitely it was the Saturday night. You know, you played your sport and then came up here and just met up with everybody. So.
You're saying about playing sport. What sport was it you played?
So at school I was very much into rugby.
Rugby.
Yeah.
And you're very good at it.
Well, I was
back in the day.
I was all right at it anyway. So yeah, did okay.
Brilliant. And was rugby something that you just got interested in whenever you joined Inst, or was it something that you watched beforehand? And I know, like now, Ireland has a phenomenal following in their matches. Like my mum screams at the TV when Ireland are playing, and I keep telling her obviously they can't hear you. But was it something that you were into before you joined Inst, or did you just find your love for it whenever you were there?
No, we started off actually at Korean Rugby Club playing in minis. And then Maxies up, and it just really from childhood, we just grew up every Saturday morning. You were up playing rugby, just having a bit of fun, and then it just developed in there. You went to Inst, you get more rugby, and it really just took off from there.
It's funny, at that time, well, you're a wee bit older than me, but at that time, Korean minis and Maxies, like I didn't really get into it, but a few of my mates, like Andrew Trimble and Stephen McCluskey and all played, and the coaches at Korean were brilliant, real charismatic people that probably wouldn't get away with some of the things he said to the kids back in the day nowadays. But like even the Korean coaches, I think it was a big rugby school, and the focus was rugby massively. It was a pretty high performing team at your level, wasn't it? I remember, was Dinger Bell before you? Or?
He was well before me.
Oh, right,
well before me, Con. Yeah, but no, I think we just, I was at school third year when they won the schools cup and stuff, so that was inspiring everybody to, to go on and do it. And, we had a really good team. There was a lot of boys who, it was just the dedication, and probably people didn't have as many interests back then, so rugby was like a major focus. We were all sort of going through that, so yeah.
And you ended up playing for Ireland in your age group?
Yep, Ireland schools.
So when you get a call up like that, how does it happen? Does your teacher tell you? Do you get, obviously back then there wasn't emails and stuff like that. Do you get a phone call? Whenever you find out you're going to be playing for Ireland, how did that make you feel? Because that's a huge accolade.
Yeah, it came in the post, a letter.
Wow.
And I still, round at mum and dad's, I still have those letters. Just, they're a big box of just letters saying you've been selected and, you're going to play and turn up here and stuff. And it's probably not like now where you get loads of gear and kit and all. Like, it's a wee bit more, you get a pair of shorts and socks and, a jersey and stuff. And that, it was just so special to go and do it.
Brilliant.
We're very lucky, we played in a really good Irish team. The likes of, just thinking, Leo Cullen, Bob Casey, Kieran Scally, who went on to sort of represent Ireland and play at a very high level. And it was great. We won the Triple Crown when we were there, and we went off and toured Australia again with Ireland. We were undefeated, beating Australia over there as well.
And what age would you have been then?
So that was when we were 18.
That's a hell of a distance to go, and I know. And we'll talk about Scouts in a bit, but you'd obviously travelled a bit with Scouts when you were slightly younger, but Australia, the other side of the world, and on a rugby tour, I'm sure there was a bit of crack had there when you were away as well.
That was great. Just amazing crack. Just being away. we actually got our A-level results when we were all out there.
Right.
So again, the coaches had given us sort of a couple of days off to just sort of relax around Coogee Beach, and like it was just going not, we just had such great crack. And then, but on the flip side of that, 2 days later we were hauled back into training and got absolutely beasted by the coaches just to get us back in sort of the mental state for playing more rugby sort of thing.
Props, Stephen.
Yeah.
And how did you find? Are you like got injuries now as a result of that, or like is it? I think the modern game, the whole thing is like the impact, the tackles, and like the legacy that those have in your body. Like, have you got long lasting injuries?
Well, I hurt my back when I was playing, and that's what really sort of ended my rugby career. But so it was when I was playing Ireland under 21s and I hurt my back. It was just wear and tear, and I recovered from that. Get back into rugby, but then it was just a point. I'm a teacher, PE teacher, and I was going in on Monday, and you're trying to get the kids to do a forward roll or pick up, I'm even picking up a basketball, and I was like, just couldn't do things. Yeah. And I was just like, it's starting to interfere with my career, and was I ever going to go any further and play for Ulster, professionally? And it just wasn't happening at that point. So that's when I just sort of thought, right, that's rugby.
And how do you keep yourself fit these days?
Just do a lot of swimming, cycling, just out in the water and just out and about. Yeah, low impact things. I can't run. I just don't run. Yeah. It's just it just impacts my back. So like anything I'm out on the bike or surfing, swimming, things like that there. Just being outdoors. So.
And you live in Portrush now?
Yep.
But you're originally a Portstewart boy.
I am.
That's how we first met at Portstewart Scouts.
Uh-huh.
Some great memories from back in those days.
Yeah.
Like we I think I was 14 or 15, and my parents crazily let me go around Europe with you boys. And you were like 17, 18 at that stage, and some awesome times, like, you know. Do you look back fondly on the Scouts?
I loved it. We had such a great time. The opportunity, I don't know how we all survived it, put it that way.
I really don't.
But health and safety back in the day.
There was no health and safety. You're running around with a Rambo knife at 13, sort of chopping down trees, and it was just brilliant. You found your feet, you found how to look after yourself. But the Scouts was just great. You went off in camp, and the younger you were, the more jobs you got. You were kicked out of the tent in the morning to light the fire and get everybody a cup of tea ready. And then as you got older, you get better responsibilities and stuff. And then you became a PL, and
you kicked people out of the tent.
You kicked everybody out of the tent, and sort of they made everything for you. But it was just like great camaraderie, great fun. We were really doing I remember actually nearly had PTSD over this. We were bouldering or caving through Marble
Arch caves, and we had to go under the water into another cave.
And I remember getting in, and you were squashed through this thing, and I'm just going, now I'm thinking back, how did I do? How did we do that without actually,
somebody dying?
Yeah, or just losing the plot, sort of thing.
Freaking out.
And then you get out, and it was all, oh, well done. You were just like absolutely terrified.
Because Eurojam that we went on, that was a trip. I was 14 or 15. We got the bus from Coleraine bus station to Gilwell in England, and then we were there for a couple of days, and then, correct me if I get this wrong, we then got put onto buses, but we didn't know where in Europe we were going. We ended up in Belgium.
Yep.
Then after Belgium, we went back to Paris and camped on a airfield in Paris.
Nice.
And then randomly, and I don't know how this bit happened, we ended up staying at some random scout that we had met's house in Sunderland.
South Shields, yeah.
South Shields, for a couple of days.
Yeah, it was just, the worst best trip ever.
Yeah.
It was just...
it's not like you'd have a mobile phone, and at 14 I could phone my mum and go, yeah, I'm doing grand. It was like 2 weeks I was gone,
Yeah, because I remember we went to, it was just a mystery tour, so we got dumped in Belgium. Bjorn, who was in charge, hadn't ordered, you could order like a food pack, so you get bread and milk. He hadn't ordered anything, so we arrived with no food. But we had bought beer in the bus, or the boat. So we were able to use the beer as a trader, and we were able to trade quite a bit of food off, because nobody else had beer at that point. But it was before the Euro, so we arrived in Belgium, and we had no currency. So it was a weekend, we tried to find a bank, they were all closed, so we were just walking around Belgium with no money.
And
beer we could trade,
dragging along behind.
Character building stuff. I think that's the thing for me, because we're trying to get our kids into, they go to Beavers at the minute, and they're going, and it's so good that Portstewart Scout Hall's still going.
Yeah.
Thanks to the volunteers that help out, obviously. thinking of Pat West.
Oh yeah.
That boy Elliot's very.
Pat's been there for so many years and does a fantastic job.
She's so good, man. But like what I love about it, like I'm a constant battle for getting my kids off screens. And when they go to they love going into beavers because Pat makes like wee caterpillar digestive like buns, and they go off and they draw and they do, and there's no screens involved, and it's just class. And I can't wait till they go to Scouts.
Well,
Because I started actually in BB.
Oh right. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, so and then my brother went to Scouts, and I remember we went to an open night, and like we'd been in BB, and it was great. You were getting your badges, making cups of tea, marching around, and came down to Scouts, and they had a fire, and they had a zip line going across, and they were just chopping stuff, and I was going
blasting balls at each other.
This is what I want. This is what it's all about, sort of thing. So Friday nights were just round at the Scouts, just
That's fantastic.
wild games up on the beach and stuff.
I remember
and
being a huge thing in Portstewart. I remember Bob a Job Week. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
I remember there used to be like people going and get pound for doing a job.
That is for child protection reasons. That is.
Can just knock on the door and say, "Can I help you out, Mister?"
It's like back then. I was like, "Excuse me, Mister, with the creepy house. Can you pay me 50 quid to do all your gardening for you?" You know what I mean? So no, that
Had a knock on the head.
in its old form doesn't happen anymore. And Stephen, you come from. You're not the only person in your family that has sporting background. Your mother.
Yep.
Was a phenomenal runner. You said you don't run because of your back, but your mum was a phenomenal runner and ran in the Commonwealth Games.
Yep. In 1970 in Edinburgh, so
Right,
representing
brilliant.
Northern Ireland. So yeah, she actually held the Northern Ireland record for the 100 metres. Well,
Wow.
she actually held the record for the 110 yards as it was, and then when it changed, so she still actually holds that record.
Brilliant.
Because it changed. and
Because it
nobody
changed.
else- Right,
Things
wow,
like that there, so-
brilliant. And she won the Olympics as well, didn't she?
Well, yeah. So it was a story. I just started teaching in Limavady High, and we're at an assembly, big sports assembly, and the head of department got slightly mixed up and introduced me, and said, "Oh, this is Mr. McConnell," and his mum represented, Ireland at the Olympics, and it was in front of 400 people, and I was just new in the door, and I'm going, she goes, "Isn't that right?" And I'm nodding, and then she was, "Get me if I'm wrong, did she win it as well?" And I'm like. So at that point, Mum turned into this Olympic champion sort of thing.
Brilliant.
So
And then talking of Olympic champions, your brother John, I've known him for many years, Bob, had several gold medals of the Olympics for the UK Olympics, for the British Olympics.
Yeah.
John, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong again, was in charge of looking after the gold medals. Was that it? Because
no, John actually did. He worked for LOCOG, the organisers, and he was in charge of all the risk assessment for all the venues and things like that. There.
Yeah.
So he was, he worked on that project for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Just developing that, and on the back of that, not on the back, I applied and volunteered for the Olympics as
Brilliant.
well, and was a drug chaperone
Right.
at the Olympic.
you were chaperoning the drugs in.
So I worked at the stadium during all the athletics.
Yes.
And part of the drugs testing team, we went and got the athletes after they competed.
Brilliant.
And brought them to the drugs testing centre
Wow,
sort of
okay.
thing. So we were it was just such an amazing experience.
Where
being
at?
there.
Like Barcelona? Where did you go?
In London. London 2012.
Ah, right.
So yeah, so we're over there sort of worked for about 2 weeks at the athletics in the evening. So it was just incredible experience, but access to all the athletes. So each night you were given an athlete to pick up from a different event, and you could get trackside. You had the best access.
Brilliant.
And people are coming up going, "Oh, you're not meant to be here." And you're like, "Drugs tester." I'm watching something. They're like, "Who are you testing?" You're like,
none
"Can't
of
tell
your
you," sort of
business.
thing. So it was just incredible. We were on that Super Sunday, or the Super Saturday. We were just right on the trackside. Watching Usain Bolt winning the 100 metres.
Wow,
Watching Mo
that's
Farah, Craig Rutherford. It was just incredible. Incredible
There's
experience.
2 photographs from John's Facebook that I remember from the London Olympics. And there's one of him in a hotel room, and the reason I was asking about gold medals is there was a load of gold medals lying on the bed. And then there was another one of John courtside at the women's beach volleyball,
Yeah.
and he was like yeah, it's a tough job.
Unfortunately, I had to go and take that photograph with
Did
him
you?
and watch
Right.
that beach volleyball with him. It was like,
Right,
Had to be
brilliant.
done.
yeah, I didn't know how I felt about that.
And do you know what? The London Olympics, looking back on it now, it's something that I wish I had gone to, because, you know, you're like, the Olympics are coming and there's all the hype about it, and you go, it's not going to be as good as everybody wants it to be. But the London Olympics was phenomenal. And my dad, whenever he was growing up, he lived in Doak, and he travelled by bus to Rome for the Rome Olympics. So he did, and there's a great story he tells. He came back in a pair of these white Italian trousers.
Wow.
And it's like, these cost a fortune, height of fashion. And he walked through the door and his mum was like, my granny was like, you're not wearing those. Took them off him and threw them in the bench. Like, not having a son of mine looking like that, walking around Ballyclare and Doak.
Oh, was it Doak?
Did you not get those? They're not the same price that you had.
They're the
I remember
trousers
that.
I've worn in the early 90s.
You were wearing them around Europe with us.
Exactly. So you were talking about sea swimming, and you've done something phenomenal with your love of the water, and you created ABC, or the Arcadia Bathing Club. Tell us all about that.
Well, I can't take it's not just myself. There's a few others, John Simpson, Alan Simpson, as well as Simpson Brothers, and you know, we started this maybe. I can't remember, but if we look back, you know, we've done the Santa Splashes. We've done 11. So we started
11 of them.
Yeah,
already?
so
Wow.
we started sea swim before that, and you know, it started off with it was actually after rugby. We met up on a Sunday morning. We used to call it the 1, 2, 3 sober club. Meet up, jump in the sea, and then just sort of freshen the heads up.
Yeah.
And it really started from there. We started meeting on Sunday morning, became a bit more sort of, let's meet at 10 o'clock, jump in, and then we'd go for a coffee in the Arcadia. And then we just other people started joining us, so it became a wee bit more structured and formal, that we were, let's all meet up at the same time. And it really, since then, you know, starting off with 3 people, it has just exploded.
It's
you know,
huge,
and you look at where sea swimming is now, and dipping, and it's just incredible. It's just really taken off.
And like as good as it is and as nice it is, I sort of worry about you at times, like when the amount of people that are going down, a lot of old folk, maybe injuries and stuff, and they're battering in the dead of winter when there's howling rips and whatever. And I'm thinking, you've got to the point now where you've had to have like trained lifeguards or train some of the guys there to make sure, because it's kind of, as much as it shouldn't be on your head, I'm sure you guys feel responsible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's putting, you know, people are doing this voluntarily. Nobody's making them do it. But again, you know, there is that. So we've worked really closely with the RNLI. They put 8 of us through beach lifeguard qualification. So at least there are people down there on the beach. We're qualified. You know, if something happens, something goes wrong, we can deal with it. But the good part is what we're trying to do before people get in the water is actually educate them.
Absolutely.
You know, so we're trying to, you know, if new people come down, we're trying to explain if there's rips, if there's problem with with cold weather, to make sure they're not in for long and things like that there. So we're trying to start off that conversation before they even get in the water. But you know, it is people of all ages are jumping in. I mean, it's just incredible.
What are your numbers like at the moment then?
Well,
or pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID, I mean, it really, you know, we sort of went, right, it'll die off in the winter, but first year maybe it died off, but then it just keeps growing and growing, and people turn up, you know. And I remember standing on the beach, these hailstones pinging off us, and the first, you know, years ago, if we had been there, the 3 of us, we'd just gone, let's go for a coffee.
Yeah.
But these people are now expecting, when are we going in? And you're like,
I don't want to go in today.
it's a bit cold, and then you're, let's get in, and
But
you
that's
never
good
regret
for
it.
you, 'cause
never
it gives you
regret
the boost
it.
to go in,
You never
that's it.
regret it, but it's just mad. To think
It's
that
sort
all
of
these
growing
people,
though, because like you do, there's a cup for the body surfing, which I've never friggin' won, unfortunately. But like it's quite competitive. And then Willie McCluskey won it one week, and I was like, Willie McCluskey beat me.
You mean Mr. McCluskey?
Sorry, Mr. McCluskey. Yeah.
That's it.
Sorry,
It's funny whenever you meet a teacher, like, and even after all these years. I remember sitting having coffee though, and I called him like, Mr. McCluskey, how's it going?
You know,
And he's like,
it was
don't call me.
It was actually, you've earned the right now to call me my first
We're called Buster.
I wouldn't call him that. It was Mr. Knox actually got me into going to the bathing club. So Mr. Knox, weirdly, we were texting sort of about something, and he said to me, you should call along. Douglas, he called me Douglas. You should go along, Douglas. And
you should be saying you've now earned the right to call me my first name.
but yeah, like there's a big Korean ant sort of old boys kind of thing there, and I always see your dad in there now as well.
Yeah, Dad. He was always Dad was always like complaining. Oh, there's people there doing this and they're wearing that there. And I said, but Dad, they're in there doing it. You know, you can't stand there at the sidelines and complain. So I think just he turned maybe 70. And I was just like giving him a bit of jip, and then one day he just turned up with his kit in August, and he was just like, I'm going for it.
So Sam put his money where
So
his
Sam
mouth was.
just got in,
Brilliant.
and yeah, I think it was something like there was about a 60-year gap between the last time he was actually in the sea.
Really?
And this time, sort of thing.
And living on the coast.
And living on the coast.
Wow.
But you know, it just didn't
Yeah.
interest me at that time. And then, but the thing is, he just got into it, and then he was in every day.
Brilliant.
And I was like hearing him many times he'd swum and stuff, and I'm like, yep, we all do it.
It becomes a real addiction. Like
Yeah.
I've chatted about my dad getting into it, and now he is the driving force. There's mornings we wake up hungover, and you're thinking like, I'm not up for it today.
Aye.
Big raise on the phone saying, "We'll see you there at 10 o'clock."
Yeah.
whatever it is, and you kind of feel you have to. Then so it's,
And so, Stephen, is it true that to become a true member of the ABC and to get your certificate, there's a sort of something that you have to do to be able to become a proper member?
Yeah, well, it all started off as a bit of a joke, but people do take it very seriously. So we sort of say that they have to become a member, they have to swim a minimum of once a month for 12 months consecutively. So it's got people they're doing everything they're seeing them down in the middle of January. I mean, it was to try and keep people coming in January, February when it gets really cold. And people are just, going for it. And, they're really, I've done 6 months, I've done 7 months and all, and you're like, great. Good on, I love it. I just absolutely love it. It's brilliant people.
You bring out your wee book and say, "Yeah, no, I didn't do it."
Because there have been times I've sort of gone, no, I checked the record. People have wanted to sit, and I've gone, no, I think May, mate, you weren't in last May. And they're like, oh, it was. And it's just about a crack. But it's the people. We've met so many good people down there.
And then Jenny, who is Bjorn, who we both know's wife, she does the swimming with you as well. She was sort of on a routed schedule for swimming because you were trying to do somebody from ABC in every day for the winter or a year, or what was that?
Well, it started off in January. Someone said, right, I'm going to swim every day in January. So Clodagh, she started swimming, dipping every day, in the mornings and stuff, and then more people joined her. And then this wee WhatsApp group got created, and then someone says, well, I'm gonna do February. And then it was quickly taken up, I'm going to do March, April, and people were like doing this. So it started off, let's see if we can do 365 days.
Yeah.
And, it was just incredible. People just, wanted to do it. I mean, the spots went within about 5 minutes. Everybody wanted to do it.
Straight like, give me August.
Well, that's what I was. I went August, the warm. But people were like Jim Blee, December, Benny, November. They wanted the cold months and stuff. And I was like, what is the shortest month? February? No, definitely not.
And it was hardcore because I remember they were going at Port Rush Harbour most of the time. I remember Jim Blee and Benny actually. Weirdly, those two guys I remember jumping in and religiously putting up on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah.
It's intense, like. It's hard.
And people are doing it before work, So people are going off to work. So 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe when they come. I remember doing one. We came back from an Ulster game, and half 11 at night, I sort of had to run down and jump in the sea to do my, so you've been away to work, and then that's the only time you can do it.
I think I had jumped in the shower and took a photo and said,
but the integrity is the key into that. So, but it went on, and then so the first year went, and then it went on again. So we ended up doing over 1,000 days.
Wow.
In a row, and it only stopped because of COVID. We had to sort of bring it to an end because of the COVID restrictions back last March.
Wow. And then so like, do you do the lap of the lifeboat as well? You organise that? So like with the
lap
of the
I don't
lifeboat,
organise. I just do that.
But like you're involved in all these things, like Santa Splash. You've done 11 of them now. Like I'm sure you're not the sort of person to count, but like how much like money for charities that you raised over the last? You've seriously raised an awful lot of money for charity.
I mean, with the Santa Splash, we're up to well over. We're probably close to about 100,000 over the 11 years. And I remember the first year we started off, and it was for Down syndrome, and there was about 30 of us in it, and we raised, I think it was about £1,300. And I remember sitting there counting it, just thinking, this is mad. Like for one afternoon, this is just incredible. Amount of money, just people jumping in the sea. And then if we think back to a couple of years ago, we did it for the RNLI, and we lifted £14,500 in the day.
Brilliant.
Like, so it's just incredible that people are so generous. It's just a real community. Everybody's doing bits and pieces. The businesses are just firing in prizes for raffles, and people are just so generous at that time of the year.
I have to say, Stephen, and charity work is phenomenal, and what you do is phenomenal. But your charity work is a bone of contention for me. So it is, because my mates slag me off because I used to do a lot of charity work, and they're now like
charity.
They're like Stephen's going to get his MBE before you now. So they are, and they're like, he's surpassed you, and you've just said that figure there, and you have surpassed me. And every time we see you on Facebook or something else, it's like, that's brilliant. And they're all like, he's going to get his MBE before you. So but that's not what it's about, sure.
Listen,
it's about
that's
community,
so far from...
and it's about community, and it's about bringing people together, and it's about supporting brilliant causes as well.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's what I love about the Santa Splash. It's right before Christmas, and we literally speak to a charity and say, we're going to give you money, and they're like, what do we have to do? And I'm saying, we just want your buckets, we just want a bit of branding.
It's actually a date, our calendar, we put it on.
Yeah.
Like we look forward to finding out when the date is, and our whole sort of Christmas celebrations hinge around when that is, because we get together, we have a splash, we have a few mulled wines, whatever it is, and it's becoming a big thing in the community. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what I love. It, you know, is we picked the Sunday before Christmas, and then that, because there's people coming, I suppose that was people, my friends coming back from maybe
work
across the water, and we can get to meet up then. But that's one thing I love about the Santa Splash, is just watching little groups of people just seeing each other for the first time in a long time, and just, you know, having a drink and having a bit of fun and just sort of catching up, and you know, that really adds in to what it's all about.
So a couple of weeks ago in Portstewart Strand, there was a charity skinny dip. Did you do that?
I did not.
No.
Good. I normally do that for no money on the way back from the pub,
That's it.
At West Strand.
So, you know, you've obviously raised a lot of money for charities, and businesses get involved, and all of that. What are your sort of hopes and aspirations for ABC? Because it's something that's sort of organically growing. It's not that you sat down one night with the other guys and went, right, we're going to create this thing that people are going to come along each week. It sort of very naturally has grown. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop growing, because with COVID, one of the great things that's happened is so many people have rediscovered the sea and the health, and we talk about this quite a lot in the Tiki sessions, the health benefits both physically and mentally. So what are your sort of aspirations for ABC moving forward?
Well, we're going to get it started back up again, and it's just to get more, you know, the people down, give them education about what safe swimming is, because there are a lot of people taking it up who don't understand about, you know, tides, and understand about the cold water, about the rips and stuff. So it's just trying to get people more informed about that so they can go swim safe.
Yeah.
And I, you know, the bathing club is just great because it just brings people together, and you can meet up. You know, it's you're not going in on your own. You're going in, you can ask somebody for a bit of advice. You know, you can get a bit of help if you need it, and things like that there. So, you know, we just wanted to stay, well, not to grow exponentially, but just to have people who want to come down there just for a bit of fun, like-minded people, just chill.
And can people come down that maybe don't go into the water, because there's a great social aspect around it as well on a Sunday morning? People go for coffee and the Arcadia and 55 and all of those places. Do you mind people coming down and watching and going for, you know, and being part of the buzz that's about? Because my parents are sort of there about that area every Sunday morning. They love seeing everybody going in. They wouldn't go in themselves, but, you know, it becomes a bit of a spectator sport as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it really is just a meeting. You know, there are people who go in, there aren't, you know, as I said, my dad before wasn't going in, so he just used to come over and have a coffee and catch up with him. But that, you know, there are so many people doing it for different reasons. There are people just want to come and watch and catch up and support. Like, there's partners just sit on the beach and watch their, you know, their partners in swimming and just look at, you know, and they're down for the social, the buzz, to meet up with people. Yeah. So it's, there's a whole diverse range of people and why they're doing it.
So how gutted are you that you didn't invest in dry robes about 11 years ago?
Well, as I said to Emma, my wife, if we had bought a warehouse full of dry robes and paddle boards at the start of lockdown,
it'd be a different conversation we'd be having
absolutely,
now. Like,
you know, we would be, but listen, they've just evolved, haven't they? It's just like anything.
And this one of the things Ash and myself were talking about before you came in.
Or coupons. Or they're very different
or whatever. Yeah, that's it. Because we keep saying that. Actually, we need to get sponsored by dry robes or something. But you've got a great family, and you seem to have, and me and Ash were talking about this, you seem to have that whole work-life balance pretty well sorted, and you're a great family that you are always out and about together, and you're always out and about together as a family as well. You're also a teacher, which, you know, and I work in education as well, and that's a pretty stressful job a lot of times, and especially during COVID with the way that grading and marking and A-levels and GCSEs and all have had to go. What's your magic? What's your key to having that happy work-life balance?
I don't think there's any key. I think it's just prioritise it. It's just saying, right, these are the things that are important, and family is the most. And I think through COVID, that's something we really realised is, that is the important things. You couldn't meet up with people, but your family are, who you spend every day with. I was very lucky, as you were growing up in the North Coast. We were, mum, dad encouraged us to be outside all the time. And that's something I want to instill in my girls. And we're very lucky where we live. We can access the beaches. We are on the North Coast. You can get onto a river, a forest. There are loads of different beaches that you can just access, and it's about just using your imagination. It doesn't cost any money. It's just about getting out, having fun, and trying to just create sort of memories there with it.
Do you know what? It's brilliant, man. Because as much as you probably don't want me saying this, I see you as a great role model for young, fathers in particular, because it's tough. It's a real strange time when you make that step. And for me, again, fighting the screens at home and getting them outside, and it's a constant battle. But it's so nice to see the likes of you guys out all the time, and you are out quite a lot of time. Anytime we're out, we see you, and for me, it's a real struggle to get the boys out and get them going, even when it's pissing rain and trying to get them out. But it's when you go out and see like families all doing the same sort of thing, and I think it helps massively when everyone's on the same sort of page.
I mean, it is challenging having the family. There's always a balance, and you've got to keep working at it. It always is. I mean, there's days we've made it to the West Strand. It's taken an hour. My daughter's had a meltdown in the middle of the promenade. I'm about to have a meltdown, but that's
good, right? That
but
actually happens to you as well, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not.
It's not.
It's taken me a bit of time to sort of realise that this is
normal.
Yeah, where my life used to be surf, swim, cycle, coffee, beer. And now it's if I can get to the West Strand without anybody having a meltdown,
that's a jackpot.
See,
we've actually won today.
I always laugh. So I got our dog, or me and my wife got our dog from Binvarden, the rescue centre. And whenever we got Bailey, Binvarden, we had to fill in an application form. They came out and inspected our house. They gave us advice. Whenever we had our daughter Grace, we were shown how to bath her and change her nappy, and then they're like, okay, listen, good luck, see you later. And you sort of get home and you're like, what do we do now? And it is that, my Grace is 6.5 now, and she's fantastic, but the same as all of us and same as everyone else, she has her moments, and there are moments that if I had hair I would probably pull it out, but it's that thing of remembering that it's not just your family that happens to, and focusing on the good times. And I think, again, with COVID, what was really good was COVID gave, and we're talking to Camilla Long about this, and COVID gave people the opportunity to reprioritize what they were doing in life, and remember that, for me especially, that life's not just about work. It's about, you're meant to be working just to live your life, not living your life to work, if you know what I mean. For me, Arcadia Bathing Club gives people a reason to get family together. It's probably the one bookmark in our week where we know I'll know I meet up with Daniel and Claire, my mum and dad, and it's a really nice excuse to get everyone together. If you're not religious, you don't go to church or whatever, that's our church basically, going and meeting up there. So I think it's a cracker.
It's just about that, bringing people. That's what a church is about. It's bringing people together.
Yeah,
and that's a different sort of style of church that is out there.
So, Stephen, one of the other things that we've sort of done together is I used to run white collar boxing events, and you came on as a boxer.
Well, somebody representing a boxer.
It was a pretty intense training session, because it was 6 or 8 weeks from no experience to then fighting in Kelly's, the other side of that door, in front of 1,500 people or something like that, and 3 rounds, professional referee, full video, sound. It was a pretty big event. How did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it, but it took up so much of my headspace. Rugby's one thing, but actually boxing is a completely different, it is a completely different sport. But the mentality of, I remember going to training some nights and just thinking, I'm just going to get in a ring and somebody's going to punch me in the face. Yeah. And I'm going to have to punch there. And you're like, it just took so much headspace to actually do it. And I found it really challenging. Yeah. But I absolutely loved it. But, however, I think I'm still disputing back,
I know where
back
you're
to 2011.
I was going to say, how many years ago was
it?
this? 10 years?
And the first one, I think it was.
10 years ago.
So the first one we did, Still disputing the result of my bout anyway. Sort of.
And who were you in the ring with again?
Howard Robinson.
Fuck.
Yep.
Excuse my French. Can you do?
That's what I said,
can
but
you
it's
get a
already.
rematch going?
I don't know. I think I'm done with the rematch. But the WBO have been contacted. They're
like,
still waiting.
It was a great event, and that was for, if I remember, I can't remember what charity that was for. MenCap?
MenCap it was.
MenCap, and we raised 30 grand in a night.
I'm trying to get his MBE
I
back.
know.
Just me trying to get my MBA back. But again, this is the weird thing. So this takes us in a total circle, because back then we employed this very younger, more handsome cocktail maker to do the VIP bar that night, which was Ash.
I wonder who that was.
You know, and
I definitely remember. Sorry, Howard. I'm pretty sure Stephen McConnell won that night.
Yeah, I would say that he does. But I must go back and watch the video because it's still on YouTube. But listen, it was an awesome event, and it was great to have you on as well. So it was, you know.
Okay, it was. I mean, such a spectacle. You know, the whole thing was so professional, and you did feel like it was. You know, it was just the walk-ons and all that and stuff. So I mean, the kids still at school watch it and. They were like, "Oh, did you win?" And I went, "Well, I came second." And they were, "All right, you did." And then they realised
first
like,
loser.
So it's all about a fun, like sort of thing.
That's it.
So,
you know.
But
well, that's great. And listen, if we ever do it again, we'll make sure to get you and Howard back in the ring again.
No thanks.
No, yeah. Well, listen, Stephen, thanks very much for coming in.
pleasure.
Please say hello to your dad and your brother for me,
I will do.
because I haven't seen either of them in a while. Like, you know, and keep doing what you're doing. Do you class yourself as a Port Rush guy now, or are you still a Portstewart guy?
I think I've moved across now.
Do you?
I do, yeah.
Steve, my goodness.
I know.
Well, do you know what? There's always the battle between the two ports, but from my point of view, we live in one area, and the whole of the North Coast is stunning. And with people like yourself that we have on the show, doing amazing things with the other guys in Arcadia Bathing Club, and very community-spirited things, well done, and keep up the good work.
Keep your head.
I appreciate that.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks
Thank you.
for coming on.
Cheers now.